playing a ranged DPS in Guild Wars 2 raids is a little bit awkward because you want to stay next to your allies to get healing and boons that will actually make you do more damage. And so in a way, it really promotes playing a melee build. But if you're not hitting the golem or you're not in a really easy encounter, you're going to be forced to split up from your team, or there's going to be dangerous mechanics that you have to avoid that is going to make it hard for you to be in melee range. And so there is the purpose to having ranged builds, and they are often better for harder content. And also sometimes people just like to play a ranged DPS. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys one of my favorite ranged DPS builds for Guild Wars 2 raids, fractals, group content that allows you to play the Ranger with bows and arrows and allows you to do great damage in the role of a pure DPS or a quickness DPS. And it is probably one of the most fun ways to do it as well. So let's just get straight into the build. I go for Berserker gear with the Scholar runes, just straight up damage. And the relic is the Thief relic because that's just the most consistent damage increase. And then I go for Axe with Force Impact and a Longbow with Force Impact. Now you have 100% crit chance just from your traits, so we can afford to go for the impact sigils there. Then for the traits, I go for Marksmanship and Skirmishing, just all damage. Hunter's Gaze is better in situations where you're split from your team and don't have full boon uptime, but Might is pretty easy to share, so I like to go for the Stone Form trait, which allows you to gain Signet of Stone when you use your elite skill. And in some really dangerous mechanics, this can save your life, and dead DPS does no DPS. And then you're going to take Wolf Song because this increases the damage of your Cyclone Bow, whereas Farsighted increases only the damage of your Ranger weapon skills. And so this will increase both your weapon skills and your Cyclone Bow, so it does more damage overall, even though it has a lower modifier. And then go for Predator's Onslaught for the extra damage to movement impaired foes, which they're always going to have on them. And if you really wanted to do piercing damage in situation where there's multiple enemies, which can be useful in some fights like Kining Overlook, then you want to go for Lead the Wind, and this will allow you to hit multiple targets, which can be very powerful. And then in Skirmishing, just go for the extra bleeds on crit, which doesn't really do that much damage, but it's better than the traps, which you're not using. And I guess you could go for Vigor if you really wanted to, but this isn't generally needed. And then Strider's Strength to get some extra power, and then Vicious Quarry just for some extra crit damage. And then in Galeshot, I go for Wuthering Wind, which makes your pet do some extra damage whenever you use the Cyclone 2 skill. And then these next two traits are going to depend on whether you want to play a full DPS or a quickness DPS role. So the full DPS, you're going to be taking Pelt and Gale Force. And if you're a quickness DPS, then you take Flock Together and Cloudburst. So if you're a full DPS, then you're going to take Pelt because this will allow you to use your 4 skill in Shroud more often, and it will cost less. And so it will allow you to use more of your skills in your Cyclone Bow for more damage in general. But if you're going for the quickness DPS, then you're going to go for this, which essentially changes your rotation a little bit, but we'll go over that later. And it's going to make your pet give out quickness whenever you use the F2, so we're just going to auto cast that. And it also makes bird pets or feathered pets do more damage. And so this is why I go for the Raptor, which is a feathered pet, and the black or pink Moa, because those are feathered pets and they will do extra damage, but also those pets do CC, and you want to have CC on a Ranger because you want to contribute to your team. And then Gale Force gives you extra damage whenever you use Hawkeye, which is your Cyclone Bow's final attack. And so we're going to do big burst combos around that buff, which you're going to get extra 25 damage from. And if you're going for the quickness DPS role, then Cloudburst is going to give out quickness whenever you use Hawkeye or Bluster, and as well give out Might. You're going to change the rotation because whenever you use your Cyclone 4 or your Cyclone 5, it's going to recharge the Cyclone 2, and this means that it's really easy to get out quickness so that we can play full DPS stats and not have to worry about boon duration. But also it's just going to make it easier to get to your Hawkeye in that rotation because it's going to use up your ammo faster because the cooldowns are recharging faster. So we always want to start out with the Gale Bow to start using that ammo so that it can start recharging and to get that big buff that we get from using the Hawkeye combo. So we're always going to prioritize using the Bluster first because it's going to make our pet get the Wuthering Wind buff, and it's going to do extra damage there. It's just a good, reliable, low cooldown skill that gives 1 wind force. We want to get to 5 wind force. So the next priority is going to be the Supersonic Arrow, the Cyclone 5 skill, which gives 2 wind force, but it costs 3 and has a long cooldown. So we're not going to always have this available to use, but the first time you use it, it's going to be available. And then after that, we want to use the Pelt, which is the Cyclone 4. This is going to give us 4 wind force. And now we want to essentially prepare to use our Hawkeye. We're going to maximize how many things we can fit into that damage buff. And what we want to do is use the Mistral. So Mistral is a AoE here that will essentially make all the projectiles that pass through it do a chilling bolt with it, and that chilling bolt does extra damage. And so what we can do is we can kind of like precast that into our big Hawkeye combo, because we're going to do a bunch of projectiles with Hawkeye. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Piercing Gales after the Mistral, and then I'm going to use the Bluster, which is another 3 projectiles. So we've got 5 here, 2 here, and then Hawkeye. And then we're going to leave and just use as many projectiles as possible. So we're going to do Mistral, Piercing Gales, Bluster, Hawkeye, leave, rapid fire. Sometimes we're not going to have the Supersonic Arrow off cooldown, so we're going to do 2 4 3 4 2 combo instead. And from there, then we can do Mistral into the Piercing Gales, into the Hawkeye, into the Axe 2, into the Longbow 2. And so essentially the Longbow 2 and the Axe 2 are your biggest weapon skill projectiles. And so we just want to use one of those and then swap into the other one and use that one. So the combo is always going to be use your Hawkeye combo, prepare the Mistral and Piercing Gales into it, and then swap out and then do 2, swap 2, right? And that's going to give you all of the projectile synergy with the Mistral, and that's going to give you a lot of damage. And using these 2 skills is also going to restore your ammo so that you can go back in and keep using your Hawkeye combo. When we swap into the Axe, we're going to use the Axe 2, right? And then we can just do 3, 4, and 5. Now, this is a purely range build potentially, but the only skill that you need to use in melee range is the Axe 5. And there are going to be a lot of situations where you can be in melee, but also some situations where you can't. So this is the only skill that you can't use at range, and therefore we can just skip that if we just can't use that at the time. And so you can see that the combo is just always going to be about getting that wind force ready to use your Hawkeye, then Mistral into Piercing Gales, use your Hawkeye, use all of your projectiles, swap into your other weapons or whatever, and then just repeat. And that's pretty much how the build works. Now you can also use Perfect Storm, which is a good amount of damage in an area, and it will give you 2 arrows. And this is going to be useful when you're in a situation where you need to do big burst damage or you need CC. And ideally when you're going to use this is right before your Mistral combo, because you want the pulsing damage to be happening while you have that Hawkeye buff. Let's show how the build works with full boons and an ideal rotation. So we're going to start out by, whenever our team is going into a fight, right, we're going to walk in with Longbow 2, and then we're going to start precasting when our team is giving us buffs with the Hawkeye combo, use Perfect Storm before the Mistral, and then Bluster into Hawkeye, Longbow 2, cancel into the Axe 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to use the Axe 2 one more time before we go back in, 2, 4, 3, 4, 2, because that's just the best use of our animations. And then we're going to do the Mistral into Piercing Gales, Hawkeye combo, Longbow 2 into the end of the Mistral there. And then we're just going to use the Longbow 2 into Barrage, and then just restart the entire combo from there, going into the Cyclone Bow, doing the 2-5 combo that time. Now, if I wanted to play the Quickness DPS variant with the Flock Together and Cloudburst traits, it's pretty much going to be the exact same playstyle, but just change the Hawkeye combo. Instead of doing 2 different Hawkeye combos, we're just going to do a single priority for Hawkeye, which is going to be using the 2 skill first, 5 skill if that's up, and that's going to recharge to 2. So we're going to revert back to 2 since that's higher priority. Then use the 4, that's going to recharge to 2. So go back to using the 2 after that. And if you have no cooldowns, then use the 3 skill and just wait for your Hawkeye combo to finish it off with the Mistral and Gales, and then just do everything else the same. But that's pretty much how you play the quickness DPS or pure DPS Galeshot in Guild Wars 2 raids. So if you guys like this content, please like the video, subscribe for more. I will see you all next time.